Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can forget about box generators. Some really simple steps and a couple of easy procedures to remember, and you'll never need a box generator again. Stay tuned. So if you've been using your laser for any period of time, you either have or have wanted to make a box for something. Part of your design, make a gift box. You just want to make the slots and tabs because they're really cool making creations using slots and tabs. But before you can start making shapes like this, you got to understand how to make a box. And being able to generate a box using Lightburn and no other tools, nothing else on the internet, would be such a blessing for you when it comes to creating and designing, because it's designed in Lightburn, created in Lightburn, and you know it's Lightburn friendly. You're not going to have to worry about having all these problems and random nodes created in a box generator that messes everything up. While it works, it's not Lightburn friendly. So we're doing away with all box generators. We're going to learn how to make a perfect cube in Lightburn, and the only thing you need to know is what size do you want the cube to be and what is the thickness of your material. What size? And we're going to work with a cube right now because you need to understand what's happening with the sides of the cube, and once you understand the theory, then you can create any size and dimensions of a box you need. Okay, so let's jump over to Lightburn and make a cube. So I got a blank palette here, and I want to do a 5-inch cube, a 5-inch cube or 127 millimeters. So I'm going to come over here and grab my rectangle, and I'm going to draw out a perfect square, and I'm going to lock my aspect ratio and tell it 127 millimeters. And if y'all don't believe me, 127 millimeters is 5 inches. Alright, so I've got a 5-inch cube or 127 millimeter cube. Now, I want to put slots and tabs around this thing, but I don't know about my spacing or my size or distance. What I know is I want a 5-inch cube or 127 millimeter cube, and I'm making it out of 3 millimeter material. So I'm going to come over here and draw me another rectangle and unlock the aspect ratio. The width needs to be 3 millimeters. Now, what about the height? I don't know what the height's going to be, and we're going to figure that out. How many tabs do I want around the perimeter of my cube? Do I want a whole bunch of little bitty slots and tabs, or do I want to have larger ones with less slots and tabs, less fingers? Or do I want to do a random creation like I've done here where I've got random sizes? Well, before you can do anything like this, you've got to understand how to get to this, and I'm going to show you that now. Well, first, before I do that, you have to understand how that works. If you want 4 tabs, you want 4 tabs protruding, and you don't want your tab on the corner, then you need to have 5 spaces. So there's 4 tabs sticking out, and you don't want a tab on the corner, so you've got a space up here and a space down here and spaces in between. So that's 4 tabs plus 5 spaces. That's 9 total spaces. So if you want 5 tabs, then you need to add 6 spaces. 1 additional space for the number of tabs. You need that math to figure out what your length will be, or your height's going to be for your tab. So here we know we've got 127 millimeters. and I want to have, if it's 5 inches, I'm going to have 6. We're going to have 6 tabs. So if I want 6 tabs, then I need 11 spaces. So if I come back up here to the height, and I've got 127 millimeters, divide that by 11 spaces. And that calculates the height of my tab. Now I can hold my shift button, select my rectangle, tell it to align to the left and the top, and that puts it right there in the top. Now I said a minute ago I don't want it in the top, but I know I've got 11.545. Come over to my gears, go to units and grids, go to my arrow movement, and I want it to be 11.545 and say OK. Now I can just select that and arrow down one time, and that puts an equal spacing between that corner and that tab or slot, the exact same width of the slot. Now I said I needed 5 of those. I'm going to duplicate that 4 times since I've got one original, so Control D, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now holding my shift key, select the square and tell it to go to the bottom. That's going to move one of those duplicates to the very bottom. Now I'll select it and use the arrow key to arrow it up from the bottom, and that spaces that away properly. Now I'll use my selector tool to select all those. There are multiple copies here plus this one, and I'll use my distribute tools up here to distribute the objects vertically with even spacing between them. And that spaces all of my copies out right along there. Now group it, hold my shift key, select the square, do the circular rotation or the circular array, 4 copies, group the results, and select the results is fine. Say OK. So now I've got one side of my cube, sort of. Let's select this. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to say Control D, duplicate that. Move it over here. Control D, duplicate that, move it over here. Now there's 3 identical copies. This one, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to reduce the width of this cube by twice the thickness of a slot. So I'm going to reduce this so it's the width will come in here, aspect ratio unlocked, 127 less 6. Come over here to this one, and I'm going to simply do an inward offset of the thickness of the material, 3 millimeters inward. Delete the original, say OK. Now I can go back to my first one, select that, the square, hold my shift button and select that original group. That'll be A subtract B right here. Boolean subtract, A subtract B. Come over here to this one, the last one, and I'm going to select the square again, hold shift and select the outer pieces and weld them. Be this one, Boolean union, A plus B. And you look, I've got good, but those didn't all weld up properly, but we'll show you how to fix that by simply ungrouping it and then select those. That's just one. Let's select all of these, group them. Now I'm going to use, if I look at my move tab, my controls, my shift arrow, control arrow is 0.5. It's about a half mil. Let's make it perfect half mil. 0.5, it's half mil, and I'm going to hold control and move those in, come down here, select all of them, group them, and control up, move those in, and group all of that, and say I hold my shift button, select that, and weld those in place. Now they're all welded, but the size is off, but we're going to fix that. Here I've got, these will be tabs and these will be slots, and I have to do this in 2 steps. So I'm going to ungroup that selection, grab these are the slots, group those together, select just the square, hold shift and select those slots and subtract. A, subtract B. Now select these, group those, select the square, hold shift, select that, and weld them. A plus B. Those all welded cleanly and subtracted cleanly. So these are the only ones that were a problem. And we're going to fix that with the tools, resize slots and selection. We're going to tell it to go from 3 millimeters to 3 millimeters. And it's only seeing these because these welded up correctly. But these are not slots. These are tabs. So it recognizes them either way. Slot depth or tab height. And it can mess up your piece. We're going to talk about that in a second. But these are tabs. It's recognizing these, but it doesn't recognize these because we had to move them in a half mil to get them to overlap correctly. We can just increase our tolerance until it recognizes them. And there we go. I increased the tolerance by half mil. Now it recognizes them. 3 old, 3 new, apply, and now it fixed those. It jumped them out and said, okay, those are all right. These are all right. Now I've got 3 of the 6 sides. I would say Control D, duplicate it, bring that down. Now I have 6 sides of a cube that go together, and if I look, 127 mil, 127 mil, and 127 mil. So that quick, that easy, I just created 3 unique shapes that will fit together to make a perfect 127 millimeter cube. Now in Lightburn, checking my laser, in Lightburn it requires 4 things to recognize a slot or a tab, and that is 4 nodes. You need 4 nodes to make a slot or a tab. They have to be parallel to each other horizontally and vertically. Vogue. Crack myself up. Anyway, that's why when we were looking at it shape a minute ago and it was recognizing slots and tabs in the same piece, it's because it was looking at the nodes and recognizes them one direction as a slot, the other direction as a tab. And if you're going to be saving this file and going to be using it and you want to be able to resize it with different materials, the way you correct that idiosyncrasy about Lightburn, you add an extra node where you want it to not recognize it as a slot or a tab. Huh? Let's look. I'm going to delete these. I've got my originals, and we'll start with this one. If I go to slots, resize slots and selection, those are slots, but recognizes those as tabs, and they're not tabs. And it recognizes that as a tab because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes. Well, if I've got that selected and I go to node editing, if I put a node in here in the middle by using the letter M, everywhere that I don't want it to recognize it, and I'll just do those 2 sides, leave these alone down here so you can see how this works. Go back to tools, resize slots and selection. There it's recognizing both sides as slot depth, but when we look at tabs, now it's only seeing these 2 that I did not put the extra nodes in. That extra node right there breaks up that parallel pair of nodes and says it's no longer recognized as a tab. So I need to do that all the way around. So I use the letter M to put it in the middle just because I like the way that looks. It doesn't have to be in the middle. If I put it over here using the letter I, that would still work because that's 5 nodes and it would break it up. But I don't like seeing it like that. I'm going to delete that one and letter M to put it in the middle. Middle, 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 middle. Tools, resize slots and selection, tab height. It no longer recognizes any tabs. So that's done. Okay. This one is the same problem. Tools, resize slots and selection, their slot depth and tab height. Well, how do you know which is which? How do you know which one's a slot and which one's a tab? And once you've done this as many times as I've done it, you don't even think about it. You just see which is which. But the way you identify those, the way I got my brain trained to remember which one's which, you start at the outermost corner of your piece and draw a straight line from that corner to the next corner. Anything that's above that line is a tab. Anything that's below that line is a slot. So if you don't want, if it's protruding and Lightburn recognizes it as a tab and you don't want it to, as is in this case, then that's where you need to put, no, these are all tabs. You don't want it to recognize as a slot. So this is where you would put the extra nodes is on that line from corner to corner. And if you're not real good with just seeing that, you can use the toolpath guidelines in Lightburn to help you identify it. Let's take a look. So if we start at this corner and draw a straight line from there to that corner, anywhere that line would be would get an extra node. So if we go to nodes, you can see I need a node there, 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 there. But if you haven't trained your brain well enough yet, you can just come up here and drag you a toolpath to this corner and follow that toolpath. Anywhere you're on that toolpath and the lines overlap, you insert a node. Draw one from the side. Anywhere it overlaps this toolpath, it gets a node. Same thing all the way around. And you can drag a toolpath all the way down, go to that corner, and drag a toolpath all the way over here to that corner. And anywhere those overlap, they get extra nodes. So now if I select that piece, go to node editing, I can just come around here using the letter M, middle, 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 middle. And now, delete those, delete those. Now when I look at this piece, tools, resize slots and selection, no more slot depth, but all tab height. 3 to 3, okay. Now this piece has got slots and tabs. So here it's a good idea to use your toolpaths if you just don't immediately jump out at you. If you draw a toolpath down here to that corner, and let's go ahead and do it to the bottom, to the corner, to the corner. Now you can see those are tabs, these are slots. Anywhere your toolpath overlaps with your piece gets a node. So select your piece, go to node editing, toolpath, middle, 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 toolpath, middle, 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 middle. Now when you look at that piece, Tools, resize slots and selection. It sees those as slots. Apply, tabs, sees those as tabs. Apply, okay. Now you can duplicate those again. Control D, duplicate them. And your duplicates will have those extra nodes in it. Toolpath, and go by there and look. See, there they are. So don't go into each of the 6 pieces and create the nodes. Just create your 3 unique pieces, add the nodes as needed, then duplicate it, and now you've got 6 sides of a perfect 5-inch or 127 millimeter cube. Timed that out just great. The laser just quit. Time for me to go in here and reload the laser and start making the rest of my cube. Play with this. Make some cubes. Cubes are handy for making tea lights, making gift boxes, doing whatever you want to make with them. But once you understand the theory here, how to make your, how to determine your slot width or tab width or height, I should say. It's kind of backward. In Lightburn, going down the side of it is the height of that, and the width is your thickness of your material. One side gets reduced by 2 times the material thickness and width. The other one gets an offset inward of the material thickness. You've already created the slots. You've only got to do them one time. Create the slots one time. And then just move them over to your duplicates with the correct dimensions, and they're going to be in their proper place. It's so cool, and it's fast. In fact, just show you without having to explain it to you. Come back in here to Lightburn, grab one, delete all these, and let's do, oh, I don't know. I'm not even going, I'm going to do a random size. I'm just going to draw out a size, and I don't know what it is. That's 127.92. That's close. That's close to the original. So let's shrink it down. There we go. And I didn't hold control. Let's just start over. Delete that. There we go. 69.12. All right. I've got one. I need to do a 3 millimeter rectangle. Unlocked aspect ratio 3 millimeters. And this was 69.12. Here I want to have 3. Let's do 2 tabs, so we're going to divide it by 5. 69.12. 69.12 divided by 5. Align left top. It's 13.824. 13.824. And since I'm only needing 2, I only have to do Control D once and arrow down twice, and that puts it in the right position. Let's go ahead and group that. Hold Shift, select that circular array. Okay. Duplicate. Duplicate. Unlock my aspect ratio, the width. Reduce it by 6. Offset inward 3 mil. Delete the original. A, subtract B. A, subtract B. Ungroup. Didn't like those ungroup, and let's just move them in. Finger's getting away from me. Let's group those together. And weld them. And those are tabs. So tools, resize slots and selection, tab height. And apply. And that fixes those that I had to move. So now I've got six sides. I did not edit the nodes in that one, but that quick I made a cube. And the time it takes you to figure out and read everything that boxes.py wants you to do and figure out, and you have to remember, I don't need radius corners. I need this, and I want to import it as Lightburn. And you get it downloaded, and you get it figured out, and get it all done, and get it over into Lightburn. And then you find problems with it that don't work. And the time it takes you just to figure out the boxes.py, you've already designed it and finished it in Lightburn. It's not difficult. Not difficult. Hope this was helpful. There's always another way. There's always another way to do things in Lightburn. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is probably the simplest way to do it in Lightburn. And I don't like making comments like that because others have done it. Oh, this is better, or this is simpler, or this is... Somebody may come up with an even simpler way yet. But this is the simplest way I've done it to date. And I'm pretty happy with myself on that one. It's pretty quick, pretty slick, and pretty easy to do. So I hope you found this informative. Hope you found it helpful. I'm Steve, Hobo with Wood, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm out.